General Hospital spoilers for the week of June 30th to June 4th indicate that Sonny Corinthos and his loved ones will be in crisis mode. After Daisy's christening, some pandemonium will ensue, with Sonny at the center of it all. Sonny faces dangers from all sides, and Jens Sidwell is willing to take harsh measures if required, which means risk for Sonny's family members. However, it appears that the bigger issue right now may be acting Justine Turner, and the arrest she intends to make. Following Natalia Ramirez's probable treachery, Sonny may easily end up handcuffed and in the PCPD police interrogation room. Regardless, Sonny will start the week of June 30th to June 4th in a tough place. When calamity hits, Jason Morgan will undoubtedly stand up and do whatever Sonny needs him to do. Diane Miller will also do her part to help Sonny, so stay tuned for updates on how he will deal with any disasters that may arise. Willow Tate will now focus on her aim of marrying Drew Kane. Drew's reputation suffered another blow at the press conference, but Willow is unlikely to be discouraged because she is relying on this legal strategy to reclaim her children. By the time the visitation hearing arrives, Willow wants to be Drew's wife and portray themselves to the judge as a solid couple. That is why Willow and Drew may decide to proceed with their wedding plans as soon as possible. Of course, Sidwell bribed Judge Eva Heron to decide in Michael Corinthos' favor, which is working against Willow and Drew right now. Will Drew eventually get signs that the judge's judgment was not on the up and up? Trina Robinson may also realize that Kai Taylor abused her confidence by telling Drew about Curtis Ashford's Jacinda plan. On another note, Emma Scorpio Drake is likely to track down the owner of the dog she discovered with Giovanni Gio Palmieri in the park. Will this be Vaughn's plan to get closer to Emma and join the animal rights group? The puppy may assist Vaughn in duping Emma, ultimately leading to his sabotage of her Professor Henry Hank Dalton mission. Finally, with the 4th of July approaching, there may be some pyrotechnics in the sky, as well as several sizzling couplings on canvas. General Hospital spoilers indicate that there will be plenty of interesting news and erupting scandals, so stay tuned. The calm bustle around Port Charles has taken on an extraordinary intensity. Tensions were high, secrets were simmering just beneath the surface, and life was moving quicker than anyone expected. At the heart of this whirlwind were three intertwined storylines: Willow and Drew's rushed wedding, Vaughn's unexpected stunt involving a dog that had the entire town whispering, and Sonny Corinthos facing a crisis that had the potential to bring down everything he had spent his life building. Willow had always pictured her wedding to be peaceful, elegant and sentimental, deliberate and considerate, not rushed or fraught with conflicting feelings. But life had a habit of delivering curveballs. Her recovery from leukemia had been nothing short of miraculous, owing to a long-awaited transplant and the love and support of those closest to her. But her encounter with death had altered her. It increased her attention, urgency and unwillingness to wait for the perfect moment. After all, she realized that time was never certain. Every day was a gift, and she didn't want to squander any more of it by questioning her happiness. Drew Kane had been her rock over so many ups and downs. Despite all of the turbulence he'd been through, from being Jason's twin to prison time and commercial warfare, he'd managed to regain his footing, and Willow admired him for it. He never pushed her too hard, but his loyalty was unwavering. Their relationship had progressed from calm trust to soft tenderness, and while it still appeared fragile to others, Willow believed it was appropriate. She knew Drew would always carry shadows from his background, but she was drawn to how he refused to let them define him. The choice to marry happened soon. Willow mentioned a little ceremony in the Courtemain Gardens with family and close friends, something serene before the summer heat set in. Drew had glanced up from his mug, his blue eyes calm and steady, and simply murmured, "Let's do it." They did not want a spectacle. They didn't want weeks of planning or interference from overbearing relatives. They only wanted each other, and they wanted it now. However, the rush to prepare was not completely stress-free. Brooke Lynn, ecstatic but characteristically over-involved, attempted to organize a full guest list, catering service, and live string quartet in under a week. Olivia suggested the Metro Court's penthouse apartment for a honeymoon, and Michael tried to appear pleased despite the flicker of uneasiness in his eyes. He couldn't shake his concern for Drew. Something about the man's recent actions felt wrong. He seemed to be continuously chasing something or someone who was not present. Willow, on the other hand, persevered with quiet elegance. She chose a simple ivory gown, collaborated with Leo to create handcrafted floral centerpieces, and penned her vows alone late at night, daydreaming about a life with Drew where she would never have to glance over her shoulder. However, the cosmos had other intentions, as the wedding was not the only storm brewing. At the same time, Vaughn Taylor, the Metro Court's new bar manager and former dog trainer, became the talk of the town following an unexpected occurrence that soon turned chaotic. Vaughn had always been endearing with his rich voice and easy grin, but no one expected him to transform a simple dog trick into a show that would be broadcast throughout town. The event was held at the Quartermain stables during Leo's school fundraiser. Vaughn, hoping to impress Brooklyn, and perhaps find a new audience to admire his unusual abilities, offered to give a precision obedience demonstration with Whiskey, a border collie he had rescued and trained. The act started innocently enough. Vaughn issued simple orders, and Whiskey obeyed with military precision, sitting, jumping, and balancing rewards on his nose. Then came the finale. Vaughn asked for a volunteer to hold a little basket. Wiley, eager and delighted, stepped forward before anyone could protest. Vaughn told Whiskey to fetch a rose from an adjacent table and present it to Wiley with a bow. The dog dashed toward the boy, then abruptly diverted off course. In an instant, he was soaring through the air, past Wiley, the table, and right toward the buffet, where numerous visitors were standing with plates in hand. The following 10 seconds felt like a slapstick comedy sketch. Plates flew, visitors stumbled over chairs, and the dog knocked down a complete tower of champagne flutes with a well-placed tail whip. Laughter erupted, followed by screams as someone screamed that a guest had been bitten. Vaughn came in to try to calm things down, but the situation quickly escalated. Rumors circulated swiftly. Some said Vaughn trained Whiskey to attack on command. Others claimed it was part of an elaborate hoax gone bad. In any case, it brought an unexpected twist to an otherwise peaceful Port Charles afternoon. Brooklyn felt mortified. Olivia threatened to fire Vaughn on the spot, but Lois intervened, arguing it was a misunderstanding. What no one realized was that the entire dog trick was Vaughn's technique of distracting a specific guest. A mysterious woman called Elsie Ward, who had been prowling around the Quartermain estate for weeks. Vaughn recognized her as someone from his past, someone involved in a trafficking case from which he had almost escaped years before. The performance was a deliberate distraction to keep her from getting what she came for. But as the talk surrounding Vaughn grew, Sonny Corinthos faced his own deeply personal crisis, one that threatened to shatter his family and destroy the business he had struggled to maintain stable. For weeks, Sonny had been unraveling. He was fatigued after Nina's betrayal and the ongoing strain to maintain his firm clean in the face of heightened FBI scrutiny. His children seldom spoke to him. Michael had made a clear line, and Dante, while sympathetic in his own quiet way, had also begun to keep his distance. Only Ava seemed to understand Sonny anymore, and even that bond was riddled with issues. The crisis started with a tip from Brick. Federal investigators intercepted a package that Sonny had been expecting, legitimate cargo related to one of his waterfront companies. That alone wasn't unusual, but the agents knew just when and where to strike. Somebody on the inside had betrayed him. Sonny recognized betrayal better than anyone else. It had a distinct taste and a palpable tension in the air. He could smell it. He suspected Valentine at first, based on his increasingly erratic conduct and dubious business dealings, but Brick discounted that hypothesis. It was someone closer. Much closer. Then came the second blow. Dex, who had previously been Sonny's trusted enforcer and Michael's informant, returned to town unexpectedly, injured and desperate. He said that someone tried to assassinate him, using Sonny's name. Dex did not believe Sonny authorized the hit, but others did. Sonny understood what that meant. The walls were closing in. It became evident that someone was attempting to undermine Sonny from the inside out, using his family, staff, and reputation as weapons. He felt an alliance was forming, led by one of the smaller families he had previously evicted from the docks. But he didn't have any names. No proof. Worse, Donna started getting nightmares. She would wake up screaming and crying for her father. The stress in the household had reached an unsustainable level. Carly tried to make things regular for her own sake, but she was trying to hide her concern. Sonny, seeing the toll it was taking on his daughter, began to doubt everything. Was this existence still worthwhile? Was the power, legacy, and never-ending cycle of hatred and bloodshed worth the cost? He arrived at Drew and Willow's wedding with a false smile and slightly trembling palms. Ava was the first to notice. Sonny kept peeking over his shoulder, his instincts on overdrive. He scarcely listened to the vows. After the ceremony, he remained in the garden, unwilling to move, marveling at the sunshine filtering through the foliage. That is where Jason found him. Quietly and without judgment. The two brothers remained side by side for a long time without saying anything. Sonny eventually broke the silence. "They're coming for me," he said. Jason did not ask who. "What are you planning to do?" Jason eventually asked. Sonny looked across the grass where Willow and Drew were dancing, Michael was laughing with Wiley, and Carly was standing watching Donna play with Leo. So many aspects of his life are carrying forward without him. "I don't know," Sonny confessed. "For the first time in my life, I really don't know." And that was maybe the scariest conclusion of all. Not that he had enemies or that treachery was imminent. But Sonny Corinthos, the man who always had a plan and stayed 2 steps ahead, was now standing on unfamiliar ground. As the wedding event came to a close, Vaughn vanished. He knew Elsie would try to confront him again, and he wasn't about to let her corner him. Instead, he dialed a number he hadn't used in years, reactivating a relationship that had the potential to bring down a whole criminal network. He tried to start over in Port Charles, but the past was catching up with him. Back at the mansion, Willow and Drew danced in the now empty garden. For a brief period they felt detached from the rest of the world, unconcerned about the problems and dangers lurking just beyond the gates. They both knew better. Life at Port Charles was never tranquil for long. Somewhere a new secret was going to be revealed. A new deception was about to emerge, and someone, perhaps all of them, would be forced to confront truths that would change everything. As the breeze blew gently through the Courtemain gardens, one thing was certain. The calm would not endure. According to the General Hospital spoilers for Wednesday, June 25th, Sonny Corinthos will push for a choice, so he may be waiting for Natalia Ramirez to decide whether to give the incriminating evidence and travel to Belize. However, we know Marco Rios has been working hard to acquire a legal agreement for Natalia. Since Marco will provide something on Wednesday's episode, he might give acting DeJustine Turner the goods on Sonny in exchange for Natalia's release. Martin Gray will be a patient at GH following his press conference in the fall. Martin clearly has a back issue, which could result in a mountain of medical costs that he cannot afford. Rick Lansing will stop by Martin's room on Wednesday's show. So Martin may be hoping that Elizabeth Baldwin will file a lawsuit over the vehicle accident, which may bring Martin a lot of money as well. Liz said it wasn't happening, but Martin may pressure Rick to persuade her because he's such a pest. Of course, Elizabeth does not want to cause any more automobile-related problems, especially now that she knows Christina Corinthos Davis damaged Rick's car by accident. Alexis Davis will question Elizabeth on Wednesday's episode about if she is truly going to keep her mouth shut, so Liz may provide some reassurance despite her indignation at Christina's actions. In terms of fury, Alexis is upset with Rick and Ava Jerome for their blackmail attempt, but she may avoid informing Elizabeth about the strain she is under. Lucas Jones appears to notice a moment between Liz and Rick that is too friendly and flirtatious. It will leave Lucas wondering if Elizabeth is giving Rick false hope for their love reconciliation. While Lucas updates Elizabeth on his point of view, Ava will find something to complain about at the gallery. Ava will apparently become enraged when she discovers something related to dishonesty. "You lying liar!" Ava exclaims in Wednesday's preview video as she sits there stewing. Christina is attempting to incite friction between Ava and Rick, thus Ava's outrage could be part of that plan. On the other hand, Ava may discover Cody Bell is seducing her under Christina's orders. That would be a surefire method to irritate Ava and persuade her to turn the tables. Regardless, Cody will have other tasks to manage, possibly including another for Tracy Courtemain. Tracy will be willing to compensate Cody for his press conference rescue, but she may sweeten the deal if he does anything else for her. While Cody processes additional orders, Brooke Lynn Courtemain and Dante Falconeri will discuss Giovanni Gio Palmieri. Since Gio is excluding them both, Dante will persuade Brooke Lynn to join him. Dante will be able to communicate with Gio exclusively through this method. According to General Hospital spoilers, Dante's daring strategy may backfire if he is not careful, so keep an eye out to see whether terrible news is on the way. Martin Gray's universe had always been precisely created, with beautifully crafted legal arguments and carefully cultivated relationships. For years he had built a reputation in Port Charles as a suave, slightly shady lawyer who could play both sides of the courtroom without blinking. But recently Martin felt something change beneath him. The threads that had held his personal and professional lives together were fraying, and the veneer he had worked so hard to maintain was crumbling beneath the weight of secrets, disappointments, and unanticipated betrayal. It all started with a miscalculation, which was unusual for Martin but had severe consequences. He'd taken on a well-known client whose case appeared to be a surefire winner. The customer was powerful, affluent, and stated they had been framed in a money laundering plot involving several Port Charles business owners. Martin, always up for a challenge and enticed by the potential connections, jumped in. He hadn't recognized until it was too late that the entire case was a trap designed to expose legal gaps and potentially pull Martin down with them. Now his license was being reviewed, his reputation was being questioned, and he could feel the quiet criticism of his colleagues following him into every hallway and courtroom he entered. It didn't help that Lucy Coe, his on-and-off love interest, had begun to distance herself. Whether for self-preservation or disappointment, he wasn't sure. Martin had always relied on Lucy's inner fire to keep him warm during chilly spells in life, but now her gaze were frigid and her touch was absent. She didn't say it explicitly, but Martin could see she wasn't sure she trusted him anymore. Meanwhile, across town, Dante Falconeri faced a different kind of crisis, one that required more than just a badge and a sense of fairness. The PCPD was under pressure after a string of unsuccessful arrests and unsolved investigations. Tensions were developing between the department and the community, and Dante, the force's moral compass, found himself increasingly trapped in the middle. He had an idea that could turn things around, but it was hazardous. Too risky. Dante has been conducting an unofficial undercover operation for weeks. He hadn't even told Sam the whole truth, knowing she'd beg him to leave. The objective was a mid-level crime group operating just outside of Port Charles, trafficking drugs through smaller villages before gradually making their way into the capital. This syndicate's danger stemmed from its secrecy. No one knew who was pulling the strings. But Dante had a lead, and he was not about to let it go cold. The trouble was that in order to follow it, Dante had to assume a different identity. He'd created a new identity, based on real criminal files, and was utilizing an underground contact to get close to the syndicate's recruiter. Every step he made increased the likelihood of being revealed. He had no department backup, no formal case file to rely on, and only his instincts to guide him. He was willing to breach the line because he believed it would make a difference. But the expense was rising. His demeanor was shifting. Sam had noticed, as had his colleagues. Dante was sleeping less, snapping more, and falling into a familiar cycle that reminded him of his time with the WSB, when he'd gone too far underground and barely made it back. The shadows were pulling at him again, and this time he wasn't sure if he'd make it out alive. At the same time, Rick Lansing was dealing with a woman problem. Or, more specifically, numerous woman problems, each more intricate than the last. Rick had always been attracted to chaos. It was almost a personality feature. However, his entanglements have recently begun to spiral out of control. After emerging in Port Charles in the hopes of repairing his relationship with Molly and re-establishing himself as a credible legal player, Rick became acquainted with Celeste, a fiery public relations specialist who thrived on confrontation. Their bond was electrifying from the start, but what began as a passionate private romance quickly became a public spectacle. Celeste was ambitious, more so than Rick had anticipated, and she began using their friendship to open doors in the legal world. That would have been fine if Rick hadn't also started reconnecting with an old flame, Alexis Davis. Their history was complicated and terrible, but seeing Alexis now stronger, wiser, yet still flawed, reminded him of what they'd previously shared. Rick did not plan for anything to happen. He insisted it was innocent. However, a late-night talk in her living room, combined with too much alcohol and sorrow, resulted in a kiss neither of them were proud of. That kiss did not remain hidden for long. Celeste found out, of course. She always did. Instead of confronting Rick, she utilized her information to manipulate him. She threatened to reveal the specifics of his affair to the public, which would not only embarrass Alexis, but also harm Rick's already weak professional reputation. Rick attempted to reason with her, explaining that it was an error, a moment of weakness. But Celeste was not interested in apologizing. She sought leverage. Now she had it. Martin, recognizing Rick's distress, provided legal counsel off the record. The two men had never been close friends, but they shared a kind of common understanding. Two men who had made a few too many mistakes and were each attempting to fight their way back to some kind of dignity. Martin advised Rick to sever ties cleanly in order to move ahead of the narrative, but Rick was unwilling to destroy what little left of his career. He was still hoping unreasonably that he could repair it. Meanwhile, Dante's covert efforts took him closer to the heart of the enterprise than he had imagined. He met a woman named Lana, who appeared to be just another contact or middleman. But as he spent more time with her, he realized she was more than simply a cog in the machine. She was a victim, stuck between survival and silence. Lana had a sick son, and the syndicate had been helping her pay for his treatments. She was not loyal to them out of greed. Rather, she felt stuck. Dante felt himself sympathizing with her, which made the situation more perilous. He began feeding her information anonymously, attempting to steer her to a safe exit option. However, as she opened up, the syndicate became more interested in her. And if she is revealed, she will not be the only one burned. Dante realized he needed to put an end to the operation quickly. But he needed one more piece of evidence: verification of the ringleader's identity. Lana had intimated that someone well-known in Port Charles was involved, someone lurking in plain sight. That revelation rocked Dante to the core. The thought of a public figure, a politician or a legal authority, helping the syndicate chilled his blood. It also meant that his life was on the line. Martin's setback became more serious once he returned to court. A hearing had been scheduled to address his actions in the money laundering case. New evidence had surfaced. An email conversation in which Martin appeared to advise his client on how to avoid detection. Martin claimed the emails were doctored, but he could not prove it. Martin felt more alone than ever before, without Lucy's complete backing and his brother Valentine keeping his distance. He contacted Alexis in desperation. She agreed to represent him, but it left her in an awkward situation given her feelings for Rick and the uproar surrounding him. Nevertheless, Alexis believed Martin was telling the truth. She started looking into digital forensics, engaging Spinelli to help her figure out who had tampered with the emails. What they discovered connected them to the same criminal network that Dante was investigating. Martin's case became more than just a legal matter. It was a symbol of a much wider disease afflicting Port Charles. Spinelli was the one who finally connected the dots. The same burner server used to forge Martin's emails had also been used in offshore financial transactions involving Celeste's firm. When Rick saw this, he understood Celeste wasn't simply using him for career advancement. She was actively laundering money for the syndicate. Worse, she might have orchestrated the entire campaign against Martin to cover her tracks. Rick questioned her, but Celeste did not deny it. Instead, she smiled cruelly and told him to back off, unless he wanted to ruin his daughter's life. Rick, shaken, went directly to Alexis. He told her everything, even his betrayal. She did not slap him. She did not yell. She merely inquired, "What will you do about it?" So Rick did the only thing he could. He became a whistleblower. He supplied the PCPD with documents, communications, and backdoor access to Celeste's digital data. With that evidence, Dante's operation was now ready to act. He called the PCPD beneath the radar and planned a sting operation with Lana's help. Everything happened at once on the night of the bust. Martin was vindicated, Rick's evidence was made public, and Dante captured the ringleader, a judge who had been on the Port Charles bench for almost 20 years. The judge's arrest caused shockwaves throughout the city. His ties to multiple cases, including those involving Sonny Corinthos, the Quartermaines, and other renowned families, call into question numerous legal outcomes. Dante was promoted, but he was also required to undergo therapy for the trauma he had while undercover. He agreed not just for himself but also for Sam and his son. Martin paid Lucy a modest visit after regaining his freedom. She hugged and held him close but said nothing. For the time being, that was enough. Rick left town soon after, but not before apologizing to Molly. They had an awkward coffee. She told him she didn't trust him, but she admired how for once he did the right thing. Port Charles returned to a nervous calm, which no one expected to stay. There were always more secrets, more betrayals. But for the time being, Martin rebuilt, Dante recovered, and Rick vanished into the shadows. All three men forever altered by one catastrophic collision of ambition, duplicity, and risk. At the Quartermain home, Michael accuses Willow of marrying Drew for legal reasons. He tells her that if she marries the man, she would never see their children again. Willow responds that after she and Drew are married, she will have a chance at obtaining partial custody. Michael rants at her, telling her that her relationship with Drew is why she lost custody in the first place, and that he will never allow Drew to be a part of their children's life. Willow informs Michael that he has been difficult from the beginning, and that he refused to see her when she went to Germany. Michael claims no one notified him she was there, but she claims the receptionist informed her that he refused to see her. Michael claims that makes no sense. Willow claims Michael is hiding her children from her as punishment for falling in love with Drew. Michael claims he would never do that, but she informs him that it is exactly what he is doing. Michael says he will not stop her from enjoying this bizarre dream life with Drew, but he will not allow her to pull his children into it. Willow informs Michael that she is marrying Drew and reclaiming her children, and there is nothing he can do to prevent it. She storms out. Jason and Sunny discuss Sidwell. At Sunny's, he tells Jason about running into D.A. Turner at softball practice, and she has no idea that her key witness against him is about to disappear. Jason says Natalia's house is ready, and Sunny says as soon as she drops the incriminating paperwork, she will be shipped to Belize. Jason has one concern, which is that Natalia may have told Sidwell what she knows. Natalia hates Sunny, therefore he doubts she would have told him. Even without Natalia, Sidwell will find a way to get them. Sunny was unable to reach an agreement with Sidwell to sell him his peers, and they must now prepare for the consequences. Lucy offers to help Sidwell. Lucy meets Sidwell for lunch at Metro Court Gardens, and appears angry when she learns he invited Marco to join them. Marco comes and Sidwell informs Lucy that he had planned to make a sale with Sunny's peers, but he declined his offer. Lucy suggests that she might be able to make the transaction work, and she'll go see Sunny right now. Sidwell calls her an angel and gives her a hug. Carly turns Nina down. Carly asks Nina why she believes she can separate Willow from Drew this time. Nina argues that if Willow can see the kids without Drew, she will gradually learn that she does not need Drew's help to keep the kids around. Carly informs her that she is still dreaming, and Drew continues to make decisions. Carly informs Nina that it is her responsibility to find a way to prevent Willow from marrying Drew, as no one else can. Portia calls out Jordan. At the pool, Portia confronts Jordan for spending all day entertaining her husband and causing problems in her marriage. Jordan informs her that she and Curtis are friends and remain relatives. Jordan advises Portia to be a lady and stand up. Jordan believes Portia is solely responsible for the breakdown of her marriage. Isaiah stands on the sidelines as Portia tosses a drink in Jordan's face. Isaiah rushes over and tells Portia she should join him. Portia advises Jordan to keep out of her marriage. Isaiah pulls Portia aside as she yells about needing to deal with this once and for all. She receives a text and responds, "Now is my chance." Portia departs and Jordan thanks Isaiah for interfering. She can't believe Portia acted so out of control. Isaiah claims he saw her with Curtis, and Portia had reason to be concerned. In the aftermath, the people of Port Charles couldn't help but reflect on how close darkness had come to overtaking everything. Trust had been shaken, alliances redefined. While justice had won this round, it came at a cost. For Martin, Dante, and Rick, the scars would linger long after the headlines faded.